Why are people on the right so made? I am tired of it. You all are going to get us effing killed with your bitch-matedness. People on the right were celebrating this. Why are you celebrating this? The people on the left, they don't celebrate. They go for your jugular, figuratively. They don't stop until the boot is all the way down your throat, figuratively. And the right, they tap you on the shoulder and say, yay, we won. That's going to get, and whether you associate with the right or not, you are divided into two camps. And if you're watching this video and you don't want to report it for hate speech, you're right wing. So the right, these people are going to get us unlived. We must be proactive. And there's the two options I talked about. Either you are 100% for liberty, decentralization, peaceful secession, or you need to go full authoritarian. Let's take a look at the Trump 9-0. I have not gotten a chance to talk about the verdict. This is the Colorado ballot situation. If you're not familiar, Colorado decided to remove Donald Trump from their ballot. Something that should be of the utmost seriousness, that should be taken with extreme caution and thoroughness and respect. And no, that's not how they did it. They didn't do that. They treated the process as a joke. They knew that it was wrong. They knew what they were doing. In the moment, they knew it was wrong, and they still did it. These people are dangerous. These people are not someone that you can share a society with. They are not done yet. And here's a clip here. We'll just do a clip and then I'll get into my take more. Because this is big, man. This is, I like this super cut because it just shows you, for me, it would take forever to put something like this together, and it shows you jumping around to MSNBC and them, how they react. I want to compare the right, for a lack of a better term, I'm just going to use right and left just to keep it simple, the right compared to the left.
We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states.
I'm not confident that that will produce a result that's good for American democracy.
This is actually what I had been concerned about. I had been concerned that should it go to the Supreme Court, they would rule this way.
I'd laugh if it weren't so sad.
My next guest says Donald Trump is still an oath-breaking insurrectionist. Do you have confidence in the Supreme Court? Do you think this court is partisan?
The court itself may have overstepped.
The court went way further than it needed to go.
Our colleague Melissa Murray has called this Supreme Court the YOLO court.
The criticism of the court is that they're playing interference.
Not since Bush v. Gore have we seen a court that's had this many opportunities to interfere in the election.
The headline here is that this is a unanimous ruling, but if you scratch the surface just a little.
This is a 5-4 ruling on part of it.
This is actually a 5-4 decision.
It's 5-4.
Trump will take this, spin it, spread the misinformation, disinformation on it. So it's a win for them.
He's on the ballot and voters will vote, and he looks like he's headed to become the Republican nominee for president.
You can't save the people from themselves. If they're determined to reelect him after he organized that insurrection, then there's nothing to stop the people from doing that.
They got bench slapped. That's a term that I saw from Ron Coleman. Shout out to Ron Coleman. I subscribe to him on Twitter. This lawyer that you might have seen on Timcast. And I really, I like people where you can have, fun, you can laugh, respectful agreement and respectful disagreement. And Ron Coleman embodies that. I hold him in high regards. See, I had disagreement with Robert Barnes, and he blocked me. And I have disagreement with Ron Coleman, and I subscribe to both of them. And I have disagreement with Ron Coleman, and he just goes back and he's like, okay, we respectfully disagree, and much respect to him. But I got that term bench slapped from him. They got bench slapped, man. It was not surprising. 9-0. For people, it doesn't take long to look into this stuff to find out what's real, what's not. It is so crazy. It's not like Colorado was doing this on some nuance where it's like, oh man, maybe you could remove him from the ballot, maybe you couldn't. There was no nuance there. It was almost shocking when you look at it. that if you look at the ramifications, what Colorado did was basically look at the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and say Donald Trump committed an insurrection. Why did he commit an insurrection? Because they said he did. So then that means they could do that to any single citizen in a civil case. So that means they could sue me, anybody, you, anybody who they think, oh, you promote J6ers. Some of these people out here say I stand with Israel. I stand with J6ers. When I make that statement, they could say you are an insurrectionist, and I can sue you for millions or whatever. There's no limits on this stuff anymore. That's how banana that was. If the Supreme Court would have upheld it, Trump would have been removed from every single ballot in the country, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but what happened in Colorado was just one random person, similar to Elon Musk, where he had compensation deal with the board. One shareholder sued. One person, doesn't even have to be an organization, in any state could have sued to remove Donald Trump as an insurrectionist, and the state might have blocked it, but they could have appealed it back up to the Supreme Court, and it might have been blocked from the state. The Supreme Court might not have taken it because they already ruled, but you see what the danger is on that. Any blue state, he would have been gone. You wouldn't be a blue state if you would have kept Trump on the ballot. But here's my takeaway from this. Why are people on the right so bitch-made? I am tired of it. You all are going to get us effing killed with your bitch-madedness. People on the right were celebrating this. Why are you celebrating this? The people on the left, they don't celebrate. They go for your jugular, figuratively. They don't stop until the boot is all the way down your throat, figuratively. And the right, they tap you on the shoulder and say, yay, we won. That's going to get, and whether you associate with the right or not, you are divided into two camps. And if you're watching this video and you don't want to report it for hate speech, you're right wing. So the right, these people are going to get us unlived. We must be proactive. And there's the two options I talked about. Either you are 100% for liberty, decentralization, peaceful secession, or you need to go full authoritarian. And if you're out here celebrating the 9-0, you should be like, there should be, what do I mean by that? I'm not celebrating this. Colorado, the state that I'm in, you decided to try to take Trump off the ballot. The Supreme Court did 9-0. We are going to kick you out of the union if you don't force your governor, every single one of those justices, and your Secretary of State to resign. And I was on with the Rumble, had a lot of fun with Stephen Ignoramus. Check that out on our Rumble channel because it's way too spicy for YouTube. And he was like, that's not even enough. That's the energy. Stephen Ignoramus was like, they need to be shackled. This is not a game. This is not a game. None of these lawyers talking about this case, none of them, I don't know anything that they don't know. So think about that. What they're saying with what we know and what they know. And what they know that we know they know. For them to try to still use the word insurrection, to still get him off the ballot, is absolutely union disqualifying. And it should be, I don't like sanctions. I'm going to be a hypocrite. Texas should sanction Colorado right now. We ain't doing trade with you. We don't have any relations with you. Texas, whatever states should align and say this ruling came back 9-0. What are the ramifications? They succeeded. They interfered with Donald Trump and his ballot access. They made him look like an invalid candidate with no repercussion. What's the downside to it? Oh, okay. They voted 9-0. All right, we'll have him on the ballot. He was already on the ballot. If you don't, there are many checks and balances in our system that they don't talk about on corporate media that we need to talk about. That's where this needs to go. And you have these people celebrating. While they're celebrating, they're playing chess. They're going to their next move. Keith Olbermann, I know there was a lot of jokes out there because Keith Olbermann made a weird comment about, maybe I'll get to that. But here's what I want to talk about, though, with Keith Olbermann in seriousness here. Keith Olbermann showed what their mentality is. Keith Olbermann says on X, is still up, I believe, still up right now. This is a screenshot, but it's still up right now. Screenshotted just in case he removed it. The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension. This is a obvious 9-0 in one area, and he's going the other way. He can have his opinion, but look how savage they go at this. And collectively, the court, in quotations, meaning he doesn't recognize them as a court anymore, is what my interpretation is, has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. They call for dissolving the Supreme Court. That there's 3 branches of government. You have the executive, the president, you have the legislative with Congress, and you have the judicial. He is arguing to abolish a branch of the government. While you're celebrating, or figuratively, you are celebrating a 9-0 victory, they want to destroy this in the name of democracy. They want to destroy, and Keith Olbermann is a really smart dude. Go back to the 90s. If you don't know Keith Olbermann, go back to the 90s, Sports Center, even political stuff. Just witty, extremely knowledgeable, entertaining, almost like a Dennis Miller type back in the day. That's where he's at now. Why? Because they want death, destruction, and the annihilation of their political enemies, and you want to celebrate. There's no victory here. It's an obvious 9-0 decision. I would celebrate if a state came up and said, this isn't good enough. We're not having a 2020 election with the Secretary of State Grissom over Colorado when she did some kind of nonsense like this. It ain't happening. So let's talk. Let's have a negotiation. We ain't having a country until we resolve this. To make sure that this, what's the incentive to, or what's the deterrent to stop this from happening every time there's an election? What's the deterrent? They could just do it again. There must be a strong deterrent. And while you're busy celebrating, while you're busy seal clapping Donald Trump and his I don't have time for retribution, they have time for dissolving the Supreme Court, at least pushing for it. Does that mean they're going to get it? No. But if you're going to lift weights, sometimes you got to move up a weight and then, I'm getting stronger as I go. You can't stay where you're at. That's how they move the Overton window. Who on the right is arguing for for dissolving Colorado from the Union? It's the same thing. Why are we cheering on these people? And we got to go at Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk had that article about doing lawfare in return, and I think I actually had a bad take on that. I'm trying to go back. Well, no. See, my takes are confusing on this because I don't want that. I want peaceful secession, but I can't. What am I going to do? Every take peaceful? I can't do that. These people, the right, don't want peaceful secession. So that means they need to do more. So Charlie Kirk, in his realm, he's right. You got to go back at them with lawfare. They made the rules, but you got to stretch the rules. You can't even play by their rules. That's being reactive. They're not reactive. They're stretching the Overton window. They're stretching the rules, arresting Donald Trump 4 times. Then that means you got to arrest Obama 9 times. You got to stretch this thing. It's a tug of war, and you're trying to catch up to where they are. You're not even there. So we're getting tugged and pulled around. You don't think this matters? So then Josie the redheaded libertarian says, dissolve the separation of powers to save democracy. Like, that's what you talking about, bro? Keith Olbermann says, if the political whores on the court, wow. I like the truth come out real quick. Bitch, you don't do what I want, now you're a whore. You gotta, man, they savage, boy. They're the loving ones, remember? All he has to do is put a rainbow on his avatar and he's covered. If you do what I do, I'm an advocate for women's rights. You do an obvious 9-0 verdict where you had no choice but to do 9-0, you're a whore. That quickly. Ketanji Brown Jackson, Keith Olbermann just called you a whore. How about them apples? Who's the loving one? That quickly. That quickly. Boop. Bitches and whores. This nigga sound like Ice Cube in 1990 already. The political whores. I'm like, damn. He sound like Eazy-E. As soon as they got a verdict he doesn't like, man, boy, they come. If the political whores. So to be fair, he said political whores. Okay. On the court are overruling quite explicit language in the Constitution to benefit one politician. Yeah, that's exactly what Sonia Sotomayor, mask-wearing buffoon, just a legal ignoramus. I have zero respect for that woman. Yeah, she's really going for Donald Trump, you idiot. Your separation of powers died long ago. Yeah. I'll say this. I actually am a little bit disappointed because if they had ruled the other way, that would have been the end of the union and we would have been closer towards the path that I would want to go. Let's take a look and see here. Ali 004 said, I expected the call to pack the court again, but to abolish it, they're like, fuck, excuse my language, they're like, F that. They're like, pack the court. We want to get rid of the court. They stretch the Overton window. They don't go, the right doesn't do it, nothing. What is the aggressive stance from the right? What is it on this? All they do is celebrate nonsense. What are we celebrating? What is there to celebrate? A 9-0 verdict? That's what it should have been. You're celebrating the status quo. And I'm not here for false optimism. Kind of I led the segment with the Sydney Sweeney and her balloons. That's kind of like how I kind of break it up a little bit. I'm not going to give you false optimism. I talked about Bud Light. I think, generally speaking, Kid Rock was right about Bud Light in a way. I mean, we'll get to Kid Rock later. He went to that Bohemian Grove. But, so there's problems there, clearly. And he's bigging up the ex-CIA agent who's the CEO of Bud Light. But it is a win, unquestionably. I don't know how you can look at it as not a win for Bud Light to invest $100 million a year in the UFC. That's a win. So I will call wins when they're wins. But I'm not going to be out here at 9-0. I'm not optimistic. I'm not celebrating. Doesn't make sense. If the governors would have came out and said, what's going on in Colorado? I don't care about the 9-0 verdict. I don't trust you. We're not going to have a 2024. Your electoral college votes, when they come in, we don't trust them. You got to figure that out now, or we ain't going any further. You would have seen me like, let's go. That might have been optimism. That's why I was like looking at the Greg Abbott stuff at the border, like, whoa, that's a little. I'm still trying to figure out where that is. I don't know where I'm gonna put that. But yeah, the right only plays by the rules. The left stretches the rules. They make up the rules. And then the right doesn't even go into, it's like there's a sandbox. And then the left adds onto the sandbox. So then the right really should be adding their own pieces to the sandbox. But they stay within the same sandbox. They don't even go into, they arrested Donald Trump 4 times on made up charges. Charlie Kirk came out with that article and said, where's the made up charges? You don't even need to make up charges, but the same charges they did, type of charges they did against Donald Trump. Why can't you do that against somebody else? I mean, you're not even going to you can't even compare Donald Trump to anybody else. Donald Trump is like 10 Obamas. So you'd have to do Obama, Clinton. I'm trying to think who else. You would have to do all kinds of people to equal one Trump. That's how important Trump is. So at least do something. No one, not even Ken Paxton. I mean, it's a lot of work. So Ken Paxton has already been putting in work. There's the Missouri AG been putting in work. We need other people to put in work.
Middle MAGA.